Really, dude? Any other day, you would not be up here.
Davis is here too.
Hello, welcome to Research and Destroy, a new show where we talk about one topic ad nauseum. I am your host, Bill Carriola. You can find me on Twitter. You can find the show on Twitter at Destroy Research. And you can also find me personally on Twitter at Philadelphia, PA, all one word. Today, as you can see, I am by myself again because our guests, plural, are actually in another state, but they are joining me live over the internet. Please welcome Tom and Kimber. Say hello, guys.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
All right. So, for those of you that don't know, Tom and Kimber host a show called Odd Shape Panel on YouTube. And you guys have like several different shows like as a part of that channel, correct?
Yes, we have a bunch of different podcasts going on. Kimber has two with the.
Yeah, I do a show called Space Time Rewind, which is a Doctor Who recap show with my buddy Nolan Dean. And then I also do a show called TV Three-Way with Matthew Whitaker from Screen Mayhem. And that's a show where we watch pilots of shows each week with a guest, and we score them on their bingeability.
And then TJ Dex has his own show called I got mixed up, From Code to Script, which talks about video game movie adaptations. And then me and Eric Kosselmacher have Down Pilot Podcast, which is, we have a lot. And Mormozone and seasonal content. There's a bunch of stuff on the channel you can check out.
All right. So the topic for today, we're going to be going over Batman the Animated Series. Now, when I reached out to you guys, I was like, hey, this is like my show, and I gave you the topics. You went right to this one. It was like not even... So what drew you as far as this topic goes? Like, why this show?
My inner child. Like it just like screamed when that was an option. Like it's
it's hugely important to me. Like I have Bruce Timm drawings of the Joker and Harley Quinn tattooed large on my body. I grew up with this show. I've always been obsessed with Batman since the '89 Tim Burton Batman, and this really just continued like the vibe of that, but as a cartoon. And we wouldn't have met if it wasn't for this show, because the way that Tom and I met is that I'm a Batman the Animated Series Harley Quinn cosplayer, and that's how we met over the internet. He was Googling those costumes and found me, and we became friends. The rest is history.
Okay, well that is the best reason ever. Oh my god, jeez. All right. So, a little brief history of the things I got, and I apologize. What I usually use for notes is not charged, so I'm reading them off my phone as best I can. So, the animated series was actually on Fox Kids. It debuted in September of '92, and when they brought the show up, it was they wanted to bank off all the success going on with the Tim Burton movies, because the first Batman was like this huge success, and they got a lot of flack for Batman Returns. Oddly enough, I know a lot of like parents groups were really upset. People were not happy with a lot of the things that went, and they had this show in the works, and they were getting really nervous because of a lot of the complaints they had. But believe it or not, they actually decided to trust in that Bruce Timm and Eric Rodominski, who were already developing the show, like, please, like, just let us do our thing. We know it's going to work. We know what we're going to do, and they went forward with it. And one of the funnier things I was reading about, because they wanted to make sure they carried the noir Art Deco style, and one of the techniques they did, because when I go back and look at it, it's still very black, it's very dark. Every time there's night, the sky is very red, and it was because Rodomansky actually insisted, rather than do like traditional white cell animation, everything was black cell, and then they painted on top of it to achieve that like absolute like darkness kind of look to it, which I thought was kind of like really interesting. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that like style comes through, and I think it's why it kind of even holds up. It already looks somewhat dated, but somewhat new even at the time. And I think that was a lot of the appeal for the show, at least for me. I don't know, but like, what about you guys?
Well, I know for me, like, a big reason I probably love the genre of like film noir so much is probably because of my exposure to Batman the Animated Series as a kid. I love the harsh contrasts of light. Like, light is so important to storytelling, and like film noir understands that more than any other genre, I think. Uh, and I so ever since then, like, the style has stayed with me. And we were watching some clips before, and I didn't even realize what you were saying about the how they set up the cells, but you could see the depth in, like, it was like a close up of Two Face, and like you can just see like the depth of colors, and it's cool to know they achieved that with paint and stuff. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's gorgeous, and I love the kind of time out of time type scenario because it does make it timeless. It is as gorgeous today as it ever was when we were kids, and now I can appreciate it on a greater level than when I was a kid. But it's beautiful, and I wasn't aware of that. That's really interesting.
It's also very successful in preventing being dated, because there's also futuristic aspects to that world. There's these like zeppelins flying around. There's hard science, and while all the cars look like they're from the 50s, you know what I mean? So it's like a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when the show comes on, it ends up being a huge hit, and I would honestly say, I think a big reason for that was, I think it was like the casting of Kevin Conroy, who was kind of like a middling actor. Nobody really knew who he was. And I think it was Andrea Romano. She was at like a dinner party and just overheard him talking. And she was like, that voice. And she went up to him and was like, hey, have you ever done any kind of voice acting? And he was like, no, I really haven't. And he was like, would you come in and read for this? And he actually only viewed it as, it's a job and it'll pay the rent. And I don't really have anything for it. Like, it was just this thing I'm going to do. And it was actually his idea to do the two different voices for Bruce Wayne and for Batman. And as soon as he pitched the idea, and they're like, yeah, no, that's great. Like, go with that. And I think the rest is like, they've been pretty much trying to ape that ever since, oddly enough. So, I don't know. What about,
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, if they applied that more, like Nolan did that, but he way overdid that to the point where you're doing like two different voices. And I think what they did with Ben Affleck was cool, but I mean, Kevin Conroy will always be my Batman, the same way Mark Hamill will always be my Joker. Like, it's just what he did was perfection. It's hard to compare the live.
I mean, the whole cast really is amazing, though. Like, we were just realizing today that one of the chicks from Twin Peaks was on there.
Yeah.
And all kinds of actors that you know from other stuff, but you don't even realize it's them for a minute because to you, that's just what you grow up hearing, what the Mad Hatter sounds like, or what, Joker. Of course, like, we all know that's Mark Hamill, but at the time when we were kids, it would have blown our minds to know that was Luke Skywalker because it's so different, and it's inspired everybody who's ever played that character ever since.
Fun little story on the last me and Eric Ossemacher's podcast. I was watching something and I thought I saw Ron Perlman's name in it, so I got excited, but it wasn't him, and I got mad. But then I was reading up on Wiki today that Ron Perlman is in this, and he's Clayface, which is one of my favorite villains. So I mean, there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too with the series. It was taking a lot of these characters. Well, and I'll get into one in a bit, but going back over, and Batman's got a lot of weird lore, but taking kind of forgettable one-note, like they were forgotten, like villains. I think a case can be made for Mr. Freeze, who was a one-note joke. I got a cold gun, and they made him this they altered him like forever. Because that actually ends up translating into the comics. They completely redid his whole origin because of the strength of this episode, which I believe was The Heart of Ice, that ended up winning an Emmy for writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps when you said that, because to me that's what Mr. Freeze is always going to be. And Tom and I have talked on many occasions how much we would love to see like a Mr. Freeze movie, but taken seriously. And and with this story, and perhaps like played by somebody who's beautiful and icy like Benedict Cumberbatch, who I'm a huge fan of, I think would make a perfect Mr. Freeze for this. And I wish that we didn't get such a corny Mr. Freeze in the movies.
It was like a step backwards.
Because it's a step backwards from what they gave us here, which was so beautiful and poetic and almost like Shakespearean in the way this story went.
They handled all of their villains so well. Like, it's very rare that, like, and in this instance, better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's... The DCEU needs their writers.
That could be a whole other episode in itself, Jesus. But yeah, like even if you're saying like with Mr. Freeze, and he was a disappointment in a movie, but they still lifted this version of him and adapted him for a bad movie. But I mean, they still went to this for the source material rather than like any of the hokey stuff that came in the books, and I think that's a testament to the writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, I found out that the Mad Hatter didn't have an origin story before the animated series. Like it had before it hit the comic book shelves. So I thought that was interesting. That while they took because Mad Hatter existed, but he was like literally a hat trick character, and they made him into something real and gave him like a real like obsession. It's just the way that the Rogues Gallery individually like represents different like psychosis, like obviously Two-Face is split personalities, Clock King is OCD, like they just nail everything so well.
And the Clock King was another one-note character that they ended up like completely, it was just like finding something out of the trash and turning something wonderful, and it ended up becoming like one of the better like lesser known villains, but they made him competent and somewhat like I understood him and I understood the way he worked. And it ended up being like a really entertaining episode. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes, actually. I love that episode, the whole way it's put together, and it almost like had like a Twilight Zone moment or something.
Time now.
Yeah, it was just really good, and again to take this character who could have been like a throwaway character and to give them just this one really well written and well thought out episode. Elevates the character to something that it wasn't before Batman the Animated Series.
And I don't remember seeing Baby Doll in anything other than the animated series. I don't know if she's from the comics or not, but like, what a way to like make Killer Croc's like a compassionate character while looking like a monster. Like, they use her so well, and she's almost more villainous than Killer Croc. Like, this will take forever if we just keep going on characters.
Yeah, honestly. There was another one, Two-Face, I think. I kind of want to go into that one a little bit, too, only because, again, that was another one of those, I didn't realize it at the time, but the guy doing the voice of Two-Face is Bull from Night Court, who is, he plays Harvey, and I love the setup with, they introduce him first as Harvey, and we see the relationship, and that's one that's it's emotionally it's hard when he turns and Batman lives with what he feels like is the failure to save his friend, and how well that is handled for a kid show, no less. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I really like the contrast between the Joker and Harvey's origin too, because like in the comics, Harvey got acid thrown in his face, but here like it's a chemical vat spill, which is pretty much the Joker's origin, is falling into a chemical vat. Like, someone needs to clean up Gotham. I think that would cut down crime a lot, just less chemicals.
I think it's just like the drama with which it's handled too, like the reveal with his girlfriend or his fiance is there, and the lightning hits his face, and she sees him for the first time. We see him for the first time, and it's powerful. Like, this is not just like a kid's cartoon, and I think that's why it was so successful, because I think the parents who were watching this cartoon at the time it was coming out could probably appreciate it on a level that just we weren't capable of at the age we were, you know? Watching this now is a very different experience than watching it when I was a kid, and again, a better one just because the level of appreciation that most cartoons just simply aren't as good as what they were doing here. This is like real movies, but they're a cartoon.
Yeah, like even the title card like makes you like feel like you're watching like this theatrical performance, and the music is top notch. I guess the composer is actually one of Danny Elfman's like conductors.
Mm-hmm.
For like when somebody's like performing his pieces, it's one of his personal conductors, or they have some sort of relationship. So it's cool to see that transition.
Shirley Walker, that was her name. I had to get it out.
Yes.
So yeah, oddly enough, she would actually work with him while scoring out some of the stuff, because they obviously use the theme from the '89 Batman, which is amazing. But just even the whole opening, it sets the tone immediately. We hear this ominous music, and then he's like just seen in the shadows, and there's no actual title to the show. It's just him, and then you see the lightning flash, and then there he is, and it's a wonderful way to kind of put the mood in. Like, okay, it's gonna be something a little different. So, all right,
For sure.
Yeah. All right, and my notes closed. Pardon me. All right. So I definitely want to go into
the car alarm.
Not mine. Swear to God, no. Okay. I kind of want to go into other favorite episodes, or if you're showing someone for the first time, like, hey, this is a show you need to watch, and you're all right, give me 2 episodes that you would recommend. Which ones are you going to go to, I guess, is the question.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I like the what's it called? The Joker's Favor. That's definitely one of my favorite episodes. I just love that you're seeing the effect that the Joker has on just a normal guy. It's not Batman who he's messing with. It's his leverage over this normal dude who is terrified, and him using him as a weapon to get him into this situation. And I love how the whole thing unfolds, and Harley in the cop outfit is pretty iconic, and that whole episode's just, I think, one of my favorite stories. And you want to do one? Well, I think.
Man, I was buying time. Two. If there was 3, I would say Grey Ghost, but cutting that one out, I would probably say. I mean, Two-Face 1 and 2 is really good. Like, I would definitely put that in there. The thing is, though, if you want the payoff, you probably would want to see the episodes with Harvey in it beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I also, what's the sewer, the Rat King one? Sewer King? I don't remember the name of the episode, the fight, like the King of the Sewers, and that's pretty great.
I also, like we talked about before, the Clock King is one of my favorite ones. I have a weak spot for anything with the Mad Hatter in there.
Almost Got Him. Almost Got Him is probably, that's where like Joker, Penguin, Poison Ivy, Killer Croc, and there's a 5th. I think Mad Hatter. They all talk about how they almost all killed Batman. And then it even includes a Catwoman story about how she almost got him, but it's a love story, not like him trying to. She's like, oh, I almost got to kiss Batman, which is cute. Speaking of Catwoman, I have summoned a feline.
Dr. Polaris, I swear. So he's basically just set up in front now. And like, you know what? I don't even feel like fighting with you tonight. All right, like any other time, I swear to God, he would not be here. So, anyway, let's get back to you guys.
Yeah, I love the Poison Ivy and Harley episode as well. I just didn't want to only pick Joker episodes because I could pick Joker episodes all day. Christmas with the Joker comes to mind. But yeah, all those are great episodes. It's really hard to pick only 2.
I mean, On Leather, like the pilot itself is like, which is funny because that wasn't the original pilot they were pitching. They were pitching like, oh, we're gonna explore Batman's sexual side, and then they're like, maybe not. Like, we'll do Man Bat. Good episode.
Okay, those are a lot of good. It's funny actually. You bring up the Grey Ghost. That would have been one of mine, only because. Nice. It's such a good story, and at the same time, we get Adam West on, and we do a very nice homage love letter to that era of the Bright Knight. But also, there's the whole scene where he shows him the corner in the Batcave, and he's like, I looked up to you. You're one of the things that inspired me to be the person that I am. And then him seeing like all the good he could possibly do. And I got to tell you, especially now, that we've since lost Adam West, that was an awesome episode when that happened. When I first saw that, I was like, that is so. I think I like lost my mind when I first watched that episode. I don't know. Give me a sec here. Sorry. I don't know. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that one as far as that is?
I think it's good too because it reminds me of like the era before Batman too, like when we had the Phantom, when we had the Shadow, and I don't know if Rocketeer was just invented and later on, but still like that era of like Hero where they were like from the radio serials and stuff like that. That's what Grey Ghost felt like. Like I know it was televised, but still like.
And just like showing that your heroes have heroes too is like an important theme to have that I can appreciate, especially on a kid's show, because heroes seem so untouchable when you're a kid and you're watching it, but to show that like everybody has been that kid with someone as their hero, even Batman, is powerful.
And the contrast is amazing too because I mean everyone calls Batman a superhero, but he's technically not because he has no superpowers. But to show what a man who just a man in a suit is capable of doing, who's inspired by just a man in a suit, like who is just an actor, but like he's taking it like practically like I can do that. Like his willpower's off the charts. Whenever he gets a Green Lantern ring, I get scared because that's brick house.
I think there was another one in the books, and this will be a brief tangent, but I want to say it was right before the Sinestro Corps War when all these yellow rings were coming out, and one of them made their way to him. They're like, it's like, Bruce Wayne of Earth, you inspire great fear, and he's like, yeah, no, I don't need that, I'm good. All right, so
I also like what they're doing recently with Heavy Metal. They have like an evil version of a Green Lantern, Bruce Wayne, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I know my one friend. He was my last guest on. He works at a comic book store out in Swarthmore, which is near here, and he's been recommending that one really heavily too. I heard a lot of people saying a lot of good things. I have like zero time to read comic books anymore, unfortunately. So,
comics are expensive, man.
There is also that, yeah. So especially if they're gonna just restart the whole thing in like 5 months anyway, like why even get invested?
Yeah.
It's but that. Anyway. So, and I do want to make sure we get into this one. So, so the show comes out. It's a huge success. Like everybody's eating it up. It's critically acclaimed. The audiences love it to the point where they actually were in the process of doing an extended, like, made-for-TV episode. And due to all the overwhelming demand, they're like, you know what? Let's just see what we got here. We'll throw it out in theaters, and they put a little more money into it, and they make Mask of Phantasm. I know because there's no way we can't talk about the original animated series and not go into this gorgeous masterpiece of a movie. And I could see you're already agreeing with me on that one.
Oh, I would argue it's one of the top 3 Batman movies, like, of any theatrical release, like, not even just that, the animated ones. Beautiful movie, amazing twist at the end. The costuming is so good in this, and it's an animated feature. Like, it's well thought out. The music, again, is so great. I remember seeing it in theaters.
Yeah, it was a huge deal when it came out. I certainly remember this from when I was a kid. I don't know if I'd say top 3 because I'm a sucker for Batman movies. I love them.
Hello. Oh, did I lose you guys? Hello? I see you. There we go.
Oh, we lost?
I lost you for a second there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can't see you. We can only see your picture at the moment.
Seductive.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I see you guys playing as Day, so
Okay, well, as long as it's going to record, fine for you. Sorry.
Yeah, it should be fine. I'll, it's fine. I'll fix it, and by fix it, I mean not fix anything and never edit it, because that's how it always ends up happening. So it's very minimal editing because I don't know what I'm doing. So
now that you bring that up, though, Dark Knight's probably up in my top 3.
You'd have to probably start over that.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if I would put it necessarily in my top 3. I would probably put it 4th because I do love both of the Burton Batman movies so much, and of course Dark Knight.
Yeah, you make a good point. I retract my statement. It's probably number 4 on my list too.
If I'm thinking, and I've heard the ever popular opinion of, I think this might be my personal favorite only because this is a great Batman movie, not just a great movie. But this is probably, he is front and center. He is the main attraction. Whereas a lot of the other movies, he's taken a backseat to other characters, whether it be the Joker or whatever's going on. But in this one, we focus on him and his journey, and they aim it at an area that's not been really trampled on too much. He's home, but he's not quite Batman yet. But he might abandon this because he's fallen in love, and it adds just more of a gut wrench when you see that it does not work out and he ends up, and it's more tragic than just the parents, and I thought that was like a wonderful touch. I don't know,
and it's not even like a re-examination of like just Batman's origin. Like we get to see like the early phases of not Joe Cool, I'm sorry. He's not Jack Napier in this. He's Jack Napier in Burton's. So I'm just gonna say the Joker, right? I don't think he's named in Mask of the Phantasm.
No, they didn't. But, yeah.
Seeing the Joker, like his face before which was nice too, because it was obviously based on the early drawings of the Joker. I'm not a huge fan of like the black eyes with the white pupil drawing that they do later. But you could tell, like, that's him. Yep, I wouldn't doubt that in a second. And the World's Fair, all that stuff was so cool.
Yeah, I like that you point out that this one's probably like the best Batman story, because to me, like, Batman is the villains. I'm definitely one of those. That's the reason why I love Batman so much, because he clearly has the strongest villains out of, I'd argue, any comic book character, and that's what makes him really interesting to me. But yeah, that's like a fair point that this is probably the best Batman movie, and not so much like a Joker movie.
And even, like, I'm not, like, a huge fan of love interest in comic book movies, because usually, like, they're not there long enough for a real relationship to happen, like, which was really refreshing with Black Panther, how they have, like, an already established relationship. That was really delightful. But, like, here, like, I didn't mind learning about this woman at all, because she was fascinating. Like, she had a history behind her. She was so, like
Catwoman.
She was more dimensional than Catwoman. You know what I mean? Like, later on, like, the comparison you're making now, yes, because you find out later she's, like, an anti-hero, but...
Yeah, spoiler alert for a 20-something-year-old movie. So...
yeah, I thought she was talking... sorry. Nah, I was worried about spoilers, but you make a good point.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I just thought her, as a person before even knowing that, she was really interesting, you know what I mean, compared to a lot of the different characters.
You're saying, like, instead of, like, a Vicky Vale or something like that, you don't get, like, a throwaway.
Like, Batman's not worried about her weight going up, you know what I mean? Like, she's going to be there for a while, it feels like. But it's Batman.
Yeah. And, alright, so we have the movie that comes out.
They did that Sub-Zero movie later, too.
They did, and that was still not bad. Wasn't that one? It was the one they did a little later, the Batwoman one, which was okay, which I barely remember. It was like 2003 or so. But there was another episode I wanted to go over, and I always liked this one too. It was early on, and it was the Perchance to Dream episode. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Where it kind of just like something happens, and then all of a sudden, Bruce Wayne wakes up with alive parents, with a loving fiance, and it's everything he ever wanted. Added bonus, there is still Batman running around, and I don't know, I always thought that would... Dude, come on. You're killing me. I'm sorry. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if that one rates on any of the top lists of your guys. I don't know if that's another one.
I mean, yeah, so just because you always wonder what would Bruce Wayne be without his parents, and I very much think that he wouldn't become Batman. But like the biggest flaw in the Mad Hatter's plan was that he had his memories. You know what I mean? I don't know what he was like. If they were able to like convince him that this was going on, but because he had that doubt, like again, Batman's willpower is ridiculous. So it is definitely one of the better Mad Hatter episodes for sure. I like his origin a bit better, but
I just think stuff like that is sad for me. Like to think about how things could have been different for him, like just kind of bums me out. So even though it is a really good episode, I tend to stick to stuff that's like a little funnier because this is just like I'm like getting my heart broken, you know.
It also brings up the argument: if Bruce never becomes Batman, is that better or worse for Gotham? Because I mean, he creates the Joker like inadvertently. He like brings up the costumes out, the crazies. So
yeah. So there's one thing we absolutely have to talk about, and as far as lasting impact from this series, it's the character they have created out of whole cloth. When they went in and they were pulling all the rogues, and I want to say it was Paul Dini or Bruce Timm when they got together, and they were like, hey, like the Joker should have a foil. Let's create a character, and they create Harley Quinn. And Jesus Christ, if the rest isn't history on that character. I'm sure you guys want to go into that one a lot, and I go hog wild because we could be here all day.
I like anything in the veil of the animated series that has to do with Harley Quinn. And also, some of her Black Book run was really good. The problem is, for a while, she became like this sex object who wasn't depicted as like the smart, like scholastic person she is. I don't know. You probably have more to say.
Yeah, Harley is a character that I've always been attracted to because, first of all, just her look is really appealing to me. I like clowns. I think they are weird and creepy and interesting, and she's just really striking to look at, and I think perfect for the Joker to kind of lighten him up and make him feel more like a clown because she is so much more clowny, really, than he is. But also just her backstory that they give us here with Mad Love is, for me, like, I think it's a waste if you don't use that backstory for her, and that was unfortunate, really, with Suicide Squad, but because she is this woman who is smart and has her life together and is doing all these things and gets sucked kind of into this bad dude's life, and to me that just really hits home because a lot of women have been there and can relate to a character like her, and she is really a tragic character because she's stuck in this cycle of abuse. And I think it's weird when people kind of like romanticize the relationship that they have because it's not a romantic relationship. He's truly abusive and awful to her, and I think like she's smart enough to know that. It's just really hard when you're in it to get out of it, and it's a shame that she isn't used more to show how terrible that situation can be in and abuse in general as a story. But to me, she's just powerful for that reason and relatable, and she's great. I love her.
Yeah, and she's just I think now in the comics it's gotten a bit better. Her run with Suicide Squad and stuff because it seems like she's kind of more of like a natural born leader. Like when she's giving like something to do, she's capable. But I think idle hands. If she's not doing anything, the Joker calls. It's
That
gonna be bad
happens.
news. Yeah, it does happen.
So two things. I want to make sure I know this because it's funny you mention that. So I do know later on in the books that they do have a Joker and Harley split, and there's and a friend of mine. I can't remember the story, but I know there's a panel where somebody's trying to do something. She was like, "Oh no, I am no one's punching bag. You will not abuse me at all." and it's that character kind of just coming into her own and being her own person away from all that. And the other thing, because I know a lot is written about the Joker and Harley, but I will give, as much as Suicide Squad was whatever, I will give it credit for actually giving us a Joker and Harley that actually had a very loving relationship. There was not really, like, every time they're together, it's treated like these two are a couple that respect each other and love each other. And we don't get to see that a lot, and that part was an interesting take. Everything else about it's terrible, but I will give credit where it's due. That was a nice way to go with it. I would kind of like to see more of a story like that.
That's kind of just like a dry wipe of their like history together. You know what I mean? Like it's like glossing over and be like, no, they're fine.
Yeah, that's
like,
just not the character.
That seems like the outside looking in, and really the only character the Joker is in love with is Batman. So like it's just weird for me to have like the idea that the Joker's hooking up with Harley. He doesn't want to rev that.
Yeah, that was the other one. When you say he's in love, prime example, and it was an episode I almost completely forgot about, and I'm kind of glad. It was The Man Who Killed Batman with was it Sid the Squid, and everything from top to bottom about that episode. It's definitely in my top 5. This is a really great story. Batman's hardly in it, but he drives the whole narrative, and just this guy that, like, he just some dude that gets lucky, and then all of a sudden he's the most famous guy in town, and that fame comes with a price. But the whole funeral where because the Joker realizes he's not coming, and then he just, oh my, that whole thing where he realizes, like, what's the fun in this? He's not here anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, if you look in the comic books, like, this comes up, like, again and again. Like, Dark Knight Rises, like, Dark Knight retires, and the Joker, like, goes into a mental institution, becomes catatonic, hardly says anything to anyone. The moment the Joker sees that Batman's back, he cracks a smile. Like, the relationship is almost symbiotic. Like, they are two sides of a coin, and it's so cool that they make the bright, colorful one the bad guy, and the grim, like, scary one the good guy. Like, the way they, like, flip the tropes all the way back then is so interesting.
Yeah, because Harley is like a toy to the Joker. She's like a tool for which he can, first of all, I think, entertain himself, and second of all, get stuff done, because it's easier when you have, like, a henchman.
He practices material with her.
Yeah, and the Batman is his other half. Like, there's no reason for his existence if there isn't Batman, you know?
And that's what they nailed with Dark Knight, with Nolan's Dark Knight. Once Joker realizes what's going on, he's like, no, you complete me. Like, I'm not, like, at first, I thought it'd be fun to kill you, but now I realize, like, I think he says it later on, we're destined to do this forever. Yeah. Like, it's just so...
They're dancing.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk briefly, because I want to wrap it up because it's been a little bit. I want to talk about the impact this show has had, because it's frankly, it's amazing. Because of the success of this, they do a Superman show, and that becomes a good show in its own right. I enjoyed it, but I think, dude, you're killing me. Come on, dude. All right, you know what? It's going to be a cat day. I apologize.
We can't even see it.
Dr. Polaris, you're killing me. Oh, God.
I think the Superman animated series was the worst thing that happened to the Batman animated series.
I disagree only because it gave us the world's finest Batman Superman where they met, and that was everything I wanted.
And then the style changed, you know. It went to Superman animation, and you lost that Bruce Timm Art Deco animation, and but I mean, we can talk about Batman Beyond all day, though.
Exactly.
That definitely includes that.
Oh my God! Come on, you're killing me. All right. Well, not only that, everything comes out of that. So we have the Superman series, and then we get Static comes in, and then the Zeta Project. Then we do Justice League, and that whole amazing run. I mean, that basically spans from 92 to like 2005 or 6. Like, that is like an insane amount of years for an entire just one animated universe, all bored because this show happened.
I also don't think that enough people give Batman the Animated Series enough credit for the success of Teen Titans, because you can see a lot of common threads between the two shows about how they like go about story. And Teen Titans was like my favorite after Batman the Animated Series. I mean, Justice League Unlimited was great and stuff like that, but Slade and Teen Titans was one of the best DC villains in that era.
Mm. Yep. Definitely. All right, I think it's just about everything I could think of that I really want to go over. There is actually, wait, let me find it. There is one story that I always loved. So I was reading this interview with Kevin Conroy, and he talked about life after the show, like when it was over, but he was still working with it, but he never really connected to the material as a whole until he was in New York around 9/11, and he was actually volunteering. He was at a kitchen, and he was helping to feed a bunch of firemen and first responders and things like that. And then all of a sudden, he noticed people were just whispering, and word got around, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you the guy who did the voice of Batman?" And he was like, "Yeah," and all these people are coming like, "Oh my God, like that, we love that show. You're the best." And he actually did the "I am vengeance, I am the night," and like everybody's applauding, getting pictures. And he would say, like, it's at that moment I realized what an impact I could actually have on this thing that I didn't really care about. And from that moment on, he fully embraced being the Batman character, and it shows in everything. He shows up to work every time he does it, and that's a story that always kind of like touches me. I don't know. So
I agree. No, I agree with every instance, but it is unfortunate for both Hamill and Conroy with the recent Killing joke. I was not a big fan of that. The lines, and I don't blame them. I blame the directing on that. But yeah, Kevin, even in the games, Arkham Asylum, perfect. Hamill had to sign out of that later, but Nolan North still did.
But I'm glad that he did get to have that moment, because that show really did affect a lot of people. Like, I've been a girl nerd my whole life, and I was out here as a 7-year-old kid or whatever, and my room wasn't unicorns and princesses. It was Batman shit. It looked like a Batman, like a boy's room, because I loved it so much, more than anything else that really was on TV at the time. It made a huge impact on the aesthetic that I'm interested in film and comics in my adult life, for sure, seeing this at such a young age.
And I think it influenced a lot of stuff outside of DC. Look at Gargoyles, you know what I mean?
I loved Gargoyles.
And even like you're saying, I am Vengeance, I am the Night, Darkwing Duck, obviously, like a Batman like spin-off, like, well, I mean, like a caricature, but like it definitely like it impacted everyone who watched it, for sure.
Yep. Definitely. All right, I think that's everything, so I will wrap this up. So I want to pass it over to you guys. If there's anything you want to talk about, plug, feel free. Now's the time. Take as long as you want. So.
Well, we got a bunch of things in the pipeline. All those podcasts that we brought up earlier will be coming out relatively soon, new episodes. And this coming Monday is another Odd Shape panel.
We're going to be celebrating for Black History Month, and with Black Panther coming out, Delisha suggested that we do a spotlight for Black actors. So we're going to be doing that next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Odd Shape Channel on YouTube.
And you can check out Odd Shape Panel on Twitter or KimberBatch_OSP, and we'll be releasing the questions probably on Sunday, so you can prep and comment. It's a call-in show. Come and join us. Hang out in the chat. We're there all night from 9 to 12 Eastern Standard Time, so come hang out. Other than that, just check out Odd Shape Channel on YouTube.
All right. And I'm Bill Carriola. You can find me on Twitter at Philadelphia PA, or find the show on Twitter at Destroy Research. And please, if you can, subscribe, like, comment, share, do all that other stuff. And I will see you guys later. All right. Goodbye. And thanks again, guys. I'll see you later.
Yes, that was
Goodbye.
fun.
Goodbye.
of myself. I'm not a complex life like robot, duplicate of myself. I'm not a complex